Hello, it's Jack Tutor here of Attention Magazine. Welcome to Crucial Listening, the podcast where I speak with musicians and sound artists about 3 albums that are important to them. My guest this time is Madeleine Cocolas, an Australian composer and producer whose new album, Bodies, is out now on Room 40. It's a record that draws similarities between bodies of water and human bodies and endeavours to blur the boundaries between them. Key to this is obviously the way that Madeleine integrates her sources, which include recordings made along the Australian coastline and on trips to North Queensland, and also lots of her voice, lots of her breath, and everything spills out into each other. The mixing on this record is just exquisite, and she does a lot of pitching down. There's a lot of sounds that really hit you in the gut, and there's some melodies as well that really leap out. They're absolutely gorgeous, sometimes rearing up in unexpected places. Some of them have a certain joviality to them. At other points, this is incredibly intense. It has so many shades on this record, and Madeleine was so much fun to talk to. This conversation was a true favourite. I'm very grateful to her for her energy. The records she picked were great, but we spill off away from the records plenty during this conversation, which is what it's all about. So, if you're enjoying this podcast, you can support it over at ko-fi.com/crucial listening. You can donate monthly or just one-off, any amount you please. Thank you very much. And otherwise, thank you for listening and supporting through other means. I'm very grateful. Okay, this is Madeleine Cocolas on Crucial Listening. Hello, Madeleine. Welcome to Crucial Listening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So you're here to talk about 3 important albums. Before we get to those, I would like to talk about your new album, Bodies, which is coming out very soon on Room 40. So The first question I wanted to ask is about the field recordings that feature on this album. I understand that they were captured, or at least some were captured on recent trips to the Australian coastline and creeks and waterfalls in far north Queensland. So can you tell me a bit about those trips and capturing that audio too?
Definitely. So this album was kind of intentional in that before I started it, I had this idea of what I wanted to do. So previous albums I've done, they kind of started with me just sort of starting to maybe collect some sounds and write music, and then they kind of formed from there. But this album, I actually, from the outset, before I'd recorded anything or written anything, I knew that I wanted to do something that was about bodies of water, and also kind of a little bit about how bodies of water have similarities with our own bodies. And my brother and his wife had just moved to Cairns, which is in far north Queensland, and I was going up to visit them. And I have been to Cairns before, many years ago, and I know that it's just absolutely stunning up there. And we were going to go to, a lot of they've got some amazing waterways. So I knew that I was going to be visiting some like beautiful creeks and waterfalls and the ocean. And I just thought, oh, this is going to be like an amazing opportunity for me to record some beautiful waterways and be able to kind of kickstart the album. So that's kind of what I did. So we went on, like, I went on a holiday to visit my brother, but I also, like, most of my suitcase was like packed with like some hydrophones and, input boxes and things like that. So it was like, a bit of a double whammy. I got to go on a holiday and, just record some beautiful, beautiful sounds.
Oh, wonderful. Hydrophones. So I understand from the last album, you were using your phone a lot as a field recording device.
Yes.
Tell me about, you came equipped this time. So tell me about the kind of microphones and the kind of capture methods you were using for the field recordings here.
Well, they were I did use some hydrophones for putting the hydrophones in the actual water. But I'm glad you mentioned the iPhone, like the smartphone or whatever, because I actually did a significant amount of field recordings on my phone.
Wicked.
Still. So it's kind of something that I don't know why, but I'm oddly passionate about using my phone or just using a phone as a recording device. And I think it's because it's so accessible in terms of, people have them on them, and it's not like you need to go out and, buy special equipment or anything. And I actually borrowed the hydrophones from Lawrence English was kind enough to let me borrow his hydrophone. So it was, which was really nice. But so the capture methods for the hydrophones it was pretty simple, pretty basic, really. But I actually found that it was a little bit, I don't know, it wasn't as spontaneous as having the phone. So I still, used the phone. And particularly when we went on like bushwalks and stuff like that, I didn't cart the hydrophones with me. I just had my phone and there'd be a beautiful waterfall or something, and I'd just go up and capture that. So it was a real mix of the different mics I used. But just like my previous albums, they were basically solely using my phone. I didn't veer too far away from that this time either.
Awesome. Love it. I love as well. I mean, I know you process them heavily, so I'm not sure how much I'm really able to discern of like the original fidelity of the phone, but there's something really nice about how they nestle in the mix that I also associate with kind of phone recordings. Like, there's a lot of kind of mid content, with phone recordings and stuff, that means that they kind of slip into a nice pocket within the mix of your compositions.
They really do. Actually, I've never really thought about that, but you're absolutely right. And I actually kind of love that you said that, sometimes they're not super discernible, because that's what I love playing around with, getting something. And sometimes a recording will be lovely, and you go, oh, that's actually pretty good. But a lot of the time, like, oh my gosh, there was a track on, I think it was Ithaca, so 2 albums ago, where I really wanted to record myself just walking around in my backyard. So I got my phone out and I recorded the phone. And it just sounded like I was walking on like crisp packets. Like, it was absolutely hideous. It was awful. And I was like, oh, shit. But then I put it in, and I do love processing sounds. I feel like it's kind of almost like repurposing, how you buy secondhand clothes or something. I feel like it's almost the same thing. You grab something that you wouldn't think is usable, and then you kind of work on it. And so I managed to, and I think that one, what I feel that the phone doesn't capture is obviously like the low end stuff, which I love. So I just managed to take out a lot of the high end, boost some of the mid lows. I don't know, I probably stuck some reverb on it or something. And then it sounded like really nice. I was like, oh, that's lovely. It does sound like I'm walking around some like beautiful forest, and not that I'm like trampling on plastic packets of junk food.
Because that must be the thing. If you're going in and you're like, I'm gonna manipulate this and I'm gonna transform it, I guess you can't discard things. You don't discard things so readily on face value, right? You kind of persist with them a bit more.
My phone is full of really kind of quite boring, innocuous sounds. And actually, talking about disguising sounds, one of my very favorite examples of disguising sounds is on the new album Bodies. And there's this part where I think it's in the first track, and there's this like crashing sound. Well, to me, it sounds like a crashing sound. It's really heavy, and it's really dense, and it's kind of like the sound of dread. And that one was hilarious because that is actually just me holding a phone above a bathtub, and I release the plug, and that gurgling sound, which doesn't sound anything like it. It sounds kind of, I know it's not very nice. It was like a bit tinny and stuff. Anyway, so I put that into Ableton and I stretched it out. So, and repitched it so it became really, really, really low. And then I like boosted the lows, and it just became this amazing, I guess like it's weird, like the force of the water going down came across in the force of this sound. And it's really funny because when I undo those, I have shown people what I did. And when you undo that process, it just sounds like a bad recording of water going down a plug.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. You seem to have a real knack actually of kind of certainly pitching stuff down and bringing out that kind of latent.
Yeah.
Because on Exhale,
yeah.
What I was going to ask you, and I don't know how comfortable you are divulging secrets, but I can't help but get completely overloaded with questions when I'm listening. But Exhale is absolutely berserk. What is going on with the field recordings on that one?
That one, let me try and think. I think that was like a storm that I'd captured. So those things getting louder and louder and louder. It'll be like a processed storm. But what I would have done is I would have mirrored, like, I think it was just a lot of like volume coming in and out. So I would have mirrored the storm with some really low end synths and stuff as well. And I've got my voice over it, like, you know, like just my breathing over it. And to me, I actually really love that track, but to me, it feels like this is what my panic attacks sound like.
Yes.
And the idea, this is so weird, but it was kind of a cathartic exercise because I'm like, well, if I make this track that sounds like a panic attack, and if I can keep breathing the whole way through, which is what I'm doing, I'm like, you know how you can kind of like breathe through this discomfort and get through the other side? It's almost like an exercise in breathing through a panic attack.
Yes.
I love it, but I don't know if people are going to just go, what the hell? But yeah, it's really stressful. But then you get to the end and you've got that huge crescendo, and then there's a release, and then there's a breath, and then you got through it, and then it's next track. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of that, the discomfort will pass. But yeah, it's really intense.
It is really intense, yeah. But yeah, as you say, I think also you've mentioned dread in this, you know, album as well, this sound of dread on the first track. I mean, this seems to be a kind of was that a pervasive theme on this record?
Honestly, sometimes I listen back to my stuff and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, not as in what was I thinking, why did I do that? It was like, wow, that's really, it can be a little bit dark. And I think that's just what happens when because I do find this whole, like, you know, writing music, I do find it really cathartic and a way to process emotions. And I know people do it for all different reasons, but I feel like I get a lot of stuff out and I always feel better after I've done it. So I don't recall really specifically having, you know, going through a particularly hard time. Whereas I know with Spectral, I mean, everyone was going through a hard time because I did that sort of during lockdown stuff. And then Ithaca, I was sort of really sad at that point because I'd moved from overseas back to Australia and I was just kind of processing that change. But I mean, hilariously, I mean, most of Bodies was recorded when I was on a holiday. So who knows? It's my darkest album.
Wow.
I could have, you know, like drinking out of coconuts and then like just in my head processing these like big songs about like but I guess it's dread. There is definitely a sense of dread in there, but I think it's more that maybe I'm just trying to convey like really big movements, like big tidal movements. And I guess like the ocean is so vast and it's so consuming and overwhelming. I guess that's the thing. I was trying to
Yes.
create some moments that did feel quite overwhelming. And I guess it came across in this way that is overwhelming in a quite dense, intense way.
Yeah, but I like that because there's definitely a very uplifting spin where it's like the vigor of the ocean is what carries away these huge, dreadful feelings. When those feelings
Yes.
can be so overwhelming, you need something with a real degree of force to it to
Yeah.
sweep that out of your body, right? So there's
Yeah.
something uplifting about that. I mean, one thing you also mentioned is, say, with Excel, mixing in synthesizers to kind of fortify the low frequency content.
Mm.
And what I love is your ability to weave together the electronics into the field recordings. I think you even mentioned in the text for this record about wanting there to be a certain, like, an inability to discern the boundaries between all these elements, and they do like pull together so beautifully. But how do you find that from a compositional standpoint? Do you find it easy to make the elements mingle, or is it a more labored process?
I do find it like quite it just comes like quite naturally because I think when I compose stuff, it's straight away I'm starting to collect sounds and like do some synth stuff in like an Ableton set immediately. So it's not like I have a very linear process of, I'll compose something and then I record it and then I mix it and then, I send it off. It just all happens at the same time. So for me, like part of that composing is like right at the beginning, I might have two sounds and I'm like, oh, I think these would be really cool if they fit together. And I'll try and get them to fit together right at the beginning sometimes. Because
Right.
the other thing that I like doing is if I can create a really cool sound that is some sort of field recording mashed together with some kind of electronic component, and then you can drop that sound into a sampler and then you've created your own sound that you can compose with as well. So I've done a bit of that in this album. I mean, maybe I just really like doing it so it's not particularly, I don't find it too tricky. And it's something that really interests me. I do love that idea of like blurring the boundaries between the two because I think that and it's not that even a lot of people would know, but with electronic stuff and MIDI libraries now are amazing. Like you think of a sound and you
Yeah.
can get a sound, and I think that's amazing. But I always really like limitations for myself, or I can get quite overwhelmed. So I kind of at the beginning of the project like to create my own palette that I'm like, okay, these are probably the sounds that I'm going to use at least in the next track or something. And I want to create those myself just so I know that this feels really unique to me. So I guess, yeah, creating those kinds of sound is something I do fairly early on.
Right. Gotcha. Well, Madeline, the record is so wonderful. It really, I had it on headphones in bed. I've had it in the car, and it works great in all contexts. It's
Oh,
lovely. So
yay.
I will include a link in the show notes so people can check that out. We should go to your important records now. So one
Yes.
question I'd like to ask at this point is about how you thought about the word important when picking your list. So was there a way that you understood important in order to come up with the three records that you did?
Yes. I thought I took it to be important to me. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I thought about what do I mean about important to me, I thought, okay, these are three albums that when I got my hands on them, I became a bit obsessed with them. So I just listened to them a lot. And there were ones that I think each of them just really grabbed my brain. And I just became really, yeah, like a little bit obsessed with listening to either them as an album as a whole, or there were like, tracks that I loved. So yeah, important to me was something that some albums that have really grabbed my attention over, yeah, over the years.
Love it. Okay, Great. Let's go to your first one. Which one would you like to talk about first?
Maybe Glassworks, because we can go in time from when I was younger to my more recent years. So yeah, the Glassworks by Philip Glass.
Okay, great. So to begin with, give me a little introduction then as to why this one is important to you.
I guess I grew up playing classical piano, listened to a lot of classical music, but also a lot of other music as well. Like my parents were really good at sort of exposing us to lots of music. And they got a hold of the Glassworks CD, and I would have been, I think, 7 or 8 years old. So it had probably been out for a few years by then. And I remember listening to it, and I just thought I had not heard anyone play the piano like Philip Glass had played the piano on that album. Like at that, when I was a kid, I wasn't aware of his previous, his previous work. And this was like his real like breakthrough to the mainstream album.
Yeah.
And I just, oh my God, like I just absolutely loved it. And I loved the way, and I still love the way the album opens up with just solo piano, and then it kind of builds with all this orchestration, and then it closes with piano, like accompanied piano as well. And it's like, and I guess this is going to be something that all these albums have. It's just such a beautiful arc, and it's such a cohesive album. And also like Phil Glass's stuff, it's so accessible in terms of listening to it. Like it sounded so different to anything I'd ever heard, but at the same time, it wasn't trying to be complicated for the sake of being complicated or ultra intellectual. It was just something that it was like really beautiful. And then I taught myself how to play it so I could play it. And I just, it was just something really, in that simplicity, I feel like he just manages to convey so much emotion. Like if you kind of hammer it out without, thinking about it, it can sound kind of awful. But if you kind of really think about if you think about it, it's like it can be a beautiful and very emotional, that particular opening track. Yeah, I just love it.
Yeah. I don't know whether you can remember, because I guess this is a long time ago, but how did you find the process of trying to play it? Because there's a lot of intersecting rhythms going on.
Yeah, that's the hard bit. But I think once you get that rhythm down, da, 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 like once you've got that in your head, that'll take you. You can play anything from Philip Glass.
Right. Yeah.
But it's hard. But yeah, it is weird. Like because you've got the triplets in the right hand and the straight sort of pattern in the left hand. But yeah, once you kind of get your head across that, I think it's not too hard. I think that the thing was, and I would not be unique in this, is that for the next like 10, 15 years, everything I wrote sounded like Philip Glass.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah. But actually, when I was older, I managed to see him perform his, do you remember the Quartzy trilogy?
Yes, that's my first exposure to Philip Glass, yeah.
Oh, okay. So he came and played these 3 shows, and I only saw 2 of them, but it was amazing because I had the film, and then it was like him and his posse of like amazing keyboard players, and it was phenomenal. So cool.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. I think that I remember watching it in my media studies class, that documentary, and just having these shots of, I can't remember what it was, some kind of large vehicle coming towards the camera and this music just spiraling off, and people were just bursting out laughing in the classroom because of just how relentless the music was as a backdrop to these images. It's very striking the first time you hear it.
Yeah, it really is.
So you heard Glassworks originally, which I found really interesting, how this was very explicitly pitched as like, this is music for your cassette Walkman, and it's on some of the
I had it on I had it on a CD, and I didn't have a a Discman for like a little while after. So I would just sit in my parents, like in the living room and listen to it on CD. But I remember, then I'd got a Discman and I'm like, oh my God, I can listen to this in bed. This is amazing. And I feel like I listened to it in bed like every night for 2 years or something. But yeah, it was like, it was probably released to be like, oh yeah, this is, hi everyone, this is Philip Glass. You should meet him. And and he kind of just took over the world.
Yeah. So you sound like the opening piece really jumped out to begin with.
Love it. Still love it, yeah.
It's beautiful. I think that's one of those where I don't think I consciously listened to this album all the way through, but I was like, I know that piece instantly. Like the melody is so distinctive.
Exactly. And even throughout, it's just got the there's just a few themes that keep coming up, and that one really keeps coming up. And I guess also like so much music, there's many different ways to listen to it. Like you can either listen, what you were saying before, like, listen to it with headphones in your bed, or listen to it in the car, or just have it in the background. And they're it brings different meanings to every time you listen in a different way. It kind of brings something different to the table. So even just having it on in the background is still kind of absorbing in. And
for sure. How has your relationship what's your relationship been like with the other tracks on this album? Have they kind of connected as strongly, or did a connection with those maybe come later?
I still love the entire album, but sometimes I'll still just sit down at the piano and play that opening track. Yeah. I'm really shit with names as well, names of tracks on the CD, because I'll listen. So I know this one, I think might be called Flow or something, but there's another one in there, and it just kind of like everything just like bursts out at once with all these arpeggios, and it's fantastic as well.
It feels to me like there's almost 3 pairings of tracks on the record. There's like the flow and rubric, closing and opening, and then the 2 kind of more solemn kind of pieces as well. That's which is, you mentioned the kind of arc of the record. That's a very satisfying aspect I found in how it was structured.
That's such a good point. It is kind of broken into those kind of the opening and closing that are related, and those like more the muted solemn ones, and then the other ones are just like pure joy.
Yeah.
Like unbridled, just running around unhinged a little bit.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. So were there other works that you went to after discovering Glassworks?
Do you mean Philip Glass?
Sorry, yes, by Philip Glass, yeah.
Oh, I mean, I loved his soundtracks. I mean, I think he did such a brilliant job of a whole bunch of soundtracks. What I remember, The Truman Show, I thought was amazing.
Was that him?
I'm sure it was him.
No way. Huh.
Let me double check now. I think he did The Truman Show. And then there was another one. Oh my gosh, I feel like it was a Spielberg, and it might have been about Tibet. That came out as well, and I remember I loved that, and particularly The Truman Show. And now I can't remember, because there were I feel like he did a bunch of ones, and then I sort of lost, I wouldn't say I lost interest in a little bit, but I feel like it's probably very controversial, but I feel like his work, it's easy to get like a little bit diluted, because it's, he brings up the same ideas and themes and stuff. And honestly, I think if you're onto a winner, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But I guess I like to sometimes just go back to my the one that really resonates with me. And I'm kind of like that with everyone, that I'll have, I mean, probably a lot of people are, is sometimes if I obsessively love something, I'm a little bit hesitant to, listen to too much more of their stuff, because it's taking me away from the thing that I really know I love. 100%. So that's why I find it really easy and I love exploring new works by new people. But sometimes, when it goes to, put on like my next album, a Dirty 3 album, I'm going to put on the same one.
Nice.
Because I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it sounds like you've seen Philip Glass live. I should say, actually, I saw a piece of his performed like a couple of weeks ago by don't know if you've heard of Brigda Chambul. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. She's a
No.
small pipes player who played 2 pages. Have you heard that one?
No.
Oh gosh, it's relentless. I think a lot of people in the theatre got a bit antsy because it's just like an arpeggiating pattern for, I think, about 11-12 minutes, but keeps basically staying on the same pattern. It's almost like someone's evaporated off the kind of musicality of his work and then just presented the raw repetition. It's crazy. Yeah,
that's amazing. I love those. Like, I love shows that you go to, and sometimes, like, did it go for a long time? Was it quite durational?
Yes, it was, because I think a lot of people came to the show because she plays a lot of traditional Gaelic music or adapts it. So there was a lot of I guess a more of a traditionally classical audience and then an experimental audience, and you could tell where the divide was at that point because there's a few heads in hands and hands over ears, and it was very how long is this going to go on for, and for some people that was a very excited question, and for some people that was because I need to know when this is going to conclude.
I went to a show a few months ago, and it was amazing. I knew exactly what I was getting myself in for, and it was by this composer Ellen Fullman. And she did the long bow instrument.
Oh, fabulous!
And it was absolutely amazing. I have never seen or heard anything like it. I knew what she was going to do. I had listened to her stuff and I came fully prepared. And there were just some in the audience that they had no idea.
Oh, no.
And then it is extreme durational endurance where she just so there's this long strings that go from one end of the room to the other, and she puts some kind of lubricant on her fingers and she'll slowly walk from one end of the room to the other and run her fingers along the strings, and they make these beautiful sort of harmonic sounds, and then she kind of slowly walks backwards and stuff. So she's got her sneakers on and she's kind of there doing it non-stop in a very precise way, but it went for about an hour. And about 10 minutes in, people started losing their shit. They were just almost panicking, how are we going to get out? And it was quite a quiet room. And I think one person, maybe, I don't know, at the 20-minute mark, they just couldn't handle it and they left. And then it was really interesting, a few people up and left. And I actually thought that was kind of, I didn't think it was offensive or anything. It's just that sort of thing where I think it's awesome when people do something that is going to push the boundaries and be a little bit divisive, a little bit polarizing, and push people's expectations and stuff.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I'm that's awesome that they saw that it wasn't for them, they left, and then but for everyone else, it was just, I thought it was magical.
Oh, and even the people that left, you imagine that's imprinted permanently.
It is, because I actually ran into it. I didn't know this, but I went to another show recently, and this woman was talking about, she's oh, this hideous show I went to, blah, 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 with this ridiculous instrument. I was oh my God, I was at the show. I loved it. Then she's I walked out. And I'm I know.
And yet, still talking about it. That's the thing, isn't it?
We're still talking about it.
Yeah.
It's really, and I think that's brilliant, because I think, there's that whole thing about, well, really, you want, getting any reaction it can be a really positive thing. So the people that went to see 2 pages and they hated it, it's going to be seared onto their brain probably.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of them started muttering, I think something oh, for goodness sake, as it was going on. But I was wow, to be roused to a point of kind of trying to intervene almost, or needing to talk,
shut it down.
Yeah. Is that's that's someone who's clearly been stirred by this music.
They've been stirred. It's gone in their brain. It's oh, that's amazing.
Okay, Madeline, let's go to your second important album. So, Dirty Three, is that what you mentioned as being the next one?
33.
All
Yes,
right.
whatever you love, you are. I can't even remember how old I was when I think I was like sort of late teens when I got a hold of this album. And again, it was like I spent a lot of time just sitting next to the CD player on my parents, like in their living room with the headphones on. And this was another one. I think I thought, oh, I need to find out about this Dirty Three because all the cool kids at school knew about this band. And I was like, oh, I need to find out about it. And yeah, as soon as I listened to this album, I was like, holy shit. Oh my God. I mean, like, and still, like, we actually, before I put it down as my important record, I just even a few nights ago, we've got it on vinyl and I put it on vinyl and I'm like, it just like, I don't know, like how you get so much emotion out of like three instruments
Yeah.
in a like and it's sparse and it's raw and it's not perfect and how do they manage to get these like those like Warren Ellis's the melodies that he gets across I just think it's amazing.
Yeah. So you just so you came into it because the cool kids were onto it.
I was
Uh,
like, I need to get onto what the cool kids are doing.
Absolute. That is. That's the game you have to play at that age.
That's when you're in high school, that's the game.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be there. So did you
Yeah,
like it?
because I remember.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Oh no, I remembered like when I was like in grade 8, so the first year of high school, and there was this girl, and she was really cool, and she had Nirvana written on her pencil case in Sharpie, and she's like, you know who Nirvana are, don't you? And I was like, so I'm so honest. I'm like, no. And it was like, oh my God, you could have killed me with that look. I was like, oh my God, this is like the worst thing. Oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world. She's like, oh my God, you don't know who Nirvana is. And I learned quickly, but I wasn't a super quick learner back then. I
But
think when I listened to this Dirty Three album though, I'm like, what are the cool kids liking this for? Like, they're gonna ruin it.
oh no! Well, you thought they would like overexpose it? You mean? As in, like, listen to it too much?
No. No, I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was just like, how did I miss out on this one?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think I got it when it was pretty early out, but still, I just hadn't. Dirty Three were not on my radar at that point.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite track?
Favorite track. I'm gonna have to remind myself of all the track names. I'm not even joking. I do have a favorite track. But I am really shithouse with track names. It is. This is really bad. What one is my favorite track?
I should say though, like, I think if I don't know if this is the case for you, but if you grew up with Walkmans or CDs, it's not like you're constantly checking the digital
I never
display.
do. And even now, I don't.
Right.
I offered it up to the night sky. I
Nice.
reckon that's the one.
Nice,
Yep.
nice.
Yep.
The big one in the middle. That's the one where it kind of
The big one.
they start really ramping up, right? Because it's a lot of restraint up until that point, and then they.
It's so much restraint, and then it sort of changes key and like and they just make you wait so long.
Yeah.
And each one, it's like they give you exactly what you need at that point.
Yes.
It's just amazing. And then I've seen them play live a few times. 2 were like fine, but it was that sort of thing where it was at a music festival. So you're in with like, I don't know, 1,000 other people under a tent that's too hot and they've got their 30-minute slot and the sounds fun. But the just like the most magical time. And maybe this is what also kind of really made me just love them so, so very much is that I don't know, it was ages ago now, like sort of 12, 13 years ago, I moved to Seattle from Melbourne. Um, and at first I was like not thrilled about it. Like I absolutely love Melbourne. And I was kind of like, I was a bit nervous to move to Seattle. It was for my like husband's work. And I kind of did that thing where I uprooted myself and I was like really homesick for the first couple of months. And then all of a sudden I looked and Dirty Three were playing like a couple of weeks after
Oh,
we moved. And so we went and saw them at this fantastic bar called Numos, which is like, it's kind of small, like not really small, but it's like, it's an intimate venue. And so I got to be in there when I was like so homesick. And then I was so close to like, the band and Warren Ellis, and he was absolutely on fire and he just played so well. And also this stuff he says is completely bonkers.
oh, really?
Yeah, he's absolutely like this. The stories and everything he comes out with are just incredible, like as amazing as the music. And he'll just kind of like,
Wow.
go off on a bit of a tangent, tell a bit of a story, come back, pull out his violin and then just keep going. And yeah, it was and also it was like really, really, really improvised, as you can imagine. So I feel like there were like a few themes that he brought like that he played, but otherwise it was just this like amazing kind of and it was so cathartic. It was so homesick, but it was like just the best thing.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's such a memory. Wow.
Yeah.
I think what's lovely, I guess, about seeing them live is that this is the first time I've listened to one of their records all the way through, which feels kind of bonkers to say. But with a trio like this, every player is kind of simultaneously in the spotlight. It's not like anyone can retreat to the
Wow.
back and just prop up the other two. Like there's a lot of
No.
codependence, but they're all just beautiful players.
Yeah.
And all seem like to have huge personalities in the context of
Yeah.
this record I'm hearing anyway. Like the drummer, some of the decisions the drummer's making are quite out there, right? On this album.
They really are. Like it's like very unexpected and there's nowhere to hide. And you get
No.
the impression with this album, like I know that there's some tracks where they've layered Warren Ellis's violin. So,
Yes.
obviously there was some kind of post-production, but I mean there's no way there was a lot of post-production on it. So it would have just been, that kind of spur of the moment in terms of like this is how we're going to play it. And it's not like I just can't imagine that every note is set in stone before you play it. It feels like there's
No.
so much organic movement and stuff. They remind me, obviously like totally differently, but they remind me of the Necks as
Oh
well.
yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who I absolutely love the Necks. But it's that similar thing where you've got three outstanding musicians on stage, and they're not interested in virtuosic playing. It's like they channel
Hmm.
all their virtuoso, and they all are complete virtuoso players. But it's like they channel that into this immense restraint that then kind of they dish out in what
Yes.
becomes like, this complete emotional, like just that restraint. And they do it in a way that, anyone else, if you got up and you kind of played mildly, like a little bit sloppy, it would sound sloppy. But when Warren
Right.
Ellis,
Yes.
right, when he decides to play out of tune, it just sounds exactly like what's needed at that moment. Like
Yeah.
he's in full
Yeah.
control over what he's playing. And if he wants to like bend a bit of a string, then he's going to damn well bend the string and do some pitch bending. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. 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 For sure. I mean, I feel like you've potentially answered this question already, but so this is an album that you discovered, within like in high school. Why in 2024 is it still a record that's important to you? I mean, it sounds like it's, like musically, obviously it's a beautifully made thing. You have that wonderful show memory. But yeah,
That's a
what do you think
really
keeps it sticking around?
I think it's just I do really love the songs, and it's that particularly that I offered up to the night sky. There's that one where I guess it goes back to what I was saying before about sometimes if I get a bit obsessed on one track and I think it's like a perfect track, then
Mm,
I will just really want. So at the moment, this is the only Dirty Three album I have on vinyl, which I'll probably go and get. I'll get more of their stuff. But so this is the one that I have. This is
Huh.
the one where I'm like, if I want to listen to Dirty Three, I'm going to go and grab that one. I'm going to sit, like, put it on the record player and listen through to it. So it's probably just habit. It's not that their other albums aren't worthy, because they're all amazing. They're all amazing. But this is the one that I have on hand. And yeah, when I can, I love listening to like a vinyl or something.
Nice. I want to pick up on something actually that you've mentioned a couple of times, which is sitting in the living room with your headphones on, with sounding like your parents are there, right? Which I find interesting, because the normal image that people throw up is like very much in their room, like not in the social space in the house.
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with your parents in terms of the stuff that you were discovering? Like, did they lean into your tastes as well? What did that look like?
There was probably like a little bit of an overlap, but it was quite separate. But they've always been very encouraging with any sort of music stuff. So, like, we had a piano at our place, and I do remember, my brother, sister, and I, we would always like play the piano, or sometimes, oh my God, I can't believe we did this. We would like have band rehearsals at my
Oh,
parents' house with like a
yes.
full like drum kit and everything, and they were so gracious about it. Like, we get noise complaints from the neighbors, and then afterwards I'm like, wow, I can't believe. I mean, not that they even let us do it. They didn't make us feel bad about, like, actually, yeah, at one point we were having weekly band rehearsals at
Wow.
my parents' place. So they were just very they're pretty chilled out. And so, yeah, it didn't really think. So I would listen to things on my headphone, but it didn't really dawn on me to go and do it in the bedroom by myself. So I just sit there and, yeah, in the living room with these headphones on.
That's so nice. Yeah, love that. Also, that's a nice embodiment of where you say, you had your own thing, but there was kind of an overlap. To be in the social
There
space
was
with
an
your
overlap,
headphones on
yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
that's both worlds right there. That's really cool. So you mentioned this is the one you have on vinyl, this 33 album.
Yes.
If you were to
Yep.
buy another one on vinyl, like, what's the next one you would buy?
Oh God. Oh my God. Well, it's like Love Stories and Cinder are they're amazing too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
It's a cruel question.
That's a tough one. You know what I'm going to do now, though?
Go
I'm
for
going to
it.
go to the local vinyl store tomorrow and probably go and buy one.
Oh, shoot. Please, if you do, let me know what you pick up.
I'm going to do some research. I'm going to have a listening party tonight by myself with my headphones on, decide on
Oh,
a Dirty Three album I want, and then pop up to Dutch Vinyl.
I'm so excited for you. That is such a good plan. Oh my God. Madeleine, let's go to your final important album now. So if you could give me the name of it and then a bit about why it's important to you.
Virgins by Tim Heggar. Sorry, I interrupted you because I got so excited. Introductions by Tim Heggar.
I love it. I love it. Well, I think that's totally warranted. Could you give me a
Oh,
little introduction as to why this one's important to you?
I don't even know. I was living overseas at the time, and like in Seattle, which I think is partly where he recorded it as well. And I don't know, it just came out, and I was like, holy shit, this album. Like, I just feel like I'd never heard anything like it. Like,
Uh-huh.
I knew his stuff before, and I did really like people in a similar vein. Like, I really liked sort of, Ben Frost and people who did quite well, I guess, I don't know, for want of a better explanation, kind of that sort of like a bit aggressive kind of
Yeah.
electronic music. But this one, oh my God, I think, again, because I'm a sucker for piano, the way he just like almost weaponized the piano in this
Yeah.
album. I just thought that was absolutely amazing. And just every sort of, like, in terms of its production and the way it's just like these big swells of sound, and there's like big massive like pitch shifts, and everything about it grabbed me, and I just felt like I had not heard anything like that really before.
Yeah. Did you know much Tim Hecker before this one?
Not really. Like, I'd heard, like, I think this came out and then I listened back to, like, is it Rave Death?
Yes.
Um yeah, so but this is, I'm just trying to think. I think this is probably my first proper introduction to Tim Hecker, really. And I don't even know how. It probably honestly would have been on a I can't remember. Like, it's not as if I listen to a lot of Spotify either. So I probably would have just been reading some music blogs or something at the time,
Mm.
and come across it that way. But yeah, it was, yeah, oh my gosh, I still think it's amazing. I listened to it again, like, yesterday. And I was like, oh my God, it's so good.
It's so good. It's so right.
So
I
good.
think weaponizing the piano is a beautiful phrase, and
Mm.
that's something that, I mean, within the opening seconds, like, really jumps out about this record.
Oh,
What
I
are the
know.
other qualities, do you think, that really make it persist for you as a album that you love?
Well, I think that, it's kind of, and I reckon, I'm really like Tim Hecker is a big influence for me, because I think also the way how he has in this album, I think really seamlessly um, sort of combine these very beautiful acoustic instruments, like, piano and harmonium. And I feel like there's I don't know, I don't know if there's like an oboe or something in there. There's some other
Yeah.
kind of like acoustic instrument, and he just like combines them with electronics, and he does it in a way that it feels very organic and very seamless. It's probably like also the way he treats these beautiful acoustic instruments in an electronic way. So I'm
Mm.
not sure exactly how he's like what the production was in it, but the piano feels like it's very, like, it's quite heavily processed, and it also feels like it's kind of pitch shifted, like it sort of like dives
Yes.
down at certain parts. So I just love the way he kind of like just combines the electronic and the acoustic in a way, and he kind of just forges it. He just forges his own sort of style. It's really like, and it's also like it's a really aggressive album. Like, even, I mean, the image on the front
Yeah.
is really disturbing. It's
Yeah.
really confronting. And at first I was like, oh, I was like a bit, well, I just found it's really confronting. But
Yeah.
then, when you listen to the album as a whole, I do feel like there are these moments of, beauty, and it's not all completely relentless. Like, it's
Mm.
got a really good balance where it gives you some breaks when you need some breaks. But, it starts big and it finishes big. And yeah, the way he uses elements throughout, like he brings back that kind of that really aggressive piano throughout is, yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I also, the sequencing, when you talk about all three of these having a really good arc.
Mm.
I'd forgotten, but my favorite bit on the whole thing is, I think it's maybe at the end of the first virginal piece, you get a snippet of the piano loop that comes back like 3 tracks later, but for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of, and sometimes things feel like they're coming in and out. Like, it's almost like, oh, is that there on purpose?
Yeah.
It's almost, yeah. Oh, was that an accident? Because it's like quite low in the mix, and it's almost like an echo or something.
Yes. Yeah. And I literally, I think I reviewed this, and I had to check the
Oh, did
digital
you? Oh,
promo. Yeah.
oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
But I was like, have the tracks got scrambled? Because it sounds like it's about to fade in to a later track. And I tried actually putting those two together. It kind of works, but it feels like, yeah, it's almost like he's intentionally scrambled the sequencing and made you think about time in this. You mentioned the fact that things are echoed as well. There's a real sense that you do not know whether it's day or night in the world of this record.
Absolutely. And also I just love the fact that he put something out there that was so, to start with, it's not like it's an inviting album cover or an inviting opening to an album. Like, it's not it's exactly what it kind of suggests it's going to be. And I really love when people will put something out because they believe in it. They this is their statement. And I know it was a huge hit, and it should have been a huge hit because it was amazing. But he didn't necessarily, I guess, know it was going to be a huge hit. He just puts it out. He's like, this is it. Like, I can absolutely imagine people being really just not being it, it just being too much or too overwhelming for something. But the way he just put it out there, and of course it is amazing, and so it was a huge hit. But yeah, it's bold.
100%. There was this lovely Australian podcast called The Antidote who reviewed noise and experimental records, and they reviewed this one, and they both sounded so fed up with this record because I think it was just too. They were just like, oh my god! I think they felt like they'd been put through the ringer with it because it is just. It's a heavy record.
It's a heavy record.
I felt
I saw Tim Hegger play just a few days ago. So he's out in Australia at the moment. Yes way. He was doing his the No Highs album, which again I really like that. No Highs is awesome. I still Virgins is still by far my favorite, but it was so good. He was definitely one on my people I really want to see live, and it was
Was this
wonderful.
Your first time seeing him?
Yes.
Oh my gosh! So was it just him solo?
Yes, and then it was, I can never pronounce his name. Scott Morgan. Is it Lossell or Losel?
Oh gosh, I've only ever said it in my head.
Right, me too. So this is probably not the best place to say it the first time on a podcast. But yeah, he played first with this local band, Topology, which was good. But yeah, Tim Hegger, it was just him, and it was no visuals, really low lighting, which was great because it kind of made you forced you to just listen.
Wow.
And it was so loud, but it was so loud in a really good way. So I'm actually super sensitive about hearing stuff. So if something's too loud, I'll just leave because I get really nervous about my hearing. But it was loud in a really low frequency way, not in the the high, the highs and the mids that kind of pierces. It was that kind of thing where you're standing there and you just feel it through your body.
No highs.
Oh my God, great. This is amazing.
That is absolutely fabulous. He has, I think he just mixes so well, doesn't he? I think that's the thing with Virgins. It's there are some synths on this. So I nearly didn't listen to this album in advance of this because I was like, I know Virgins. It's my favorite Tim Hegger record too.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then I listened to it yesterday and I was like, what a fool I was for thinking that I knew this record. There was still things that there's some Vangelis-esque synths in there. There's some electronics that I'd completely overlooked because I think of it as an acoustic, predominantly acoustic record.
It does feel like that. It feels like that, but then you go, but it can't be. Just the all those the textures and stuff he gets out of it. It would have been I want to know how he did it, but at the same time you don't always want to see inside the sausage factory.
No, exactly. It's sometimes it's just fine, isn't it, to be overwhelmed by what it is.
It's overwhelming. Yeah, oh my gosh! Sorry that you mentioned Vangelis. Oh my God, I loved him so much as a kid. Absolutely obsessed. Obsessed.
What stuff specifically?
See, this is hard because this was one of the things that my whole family loved. So we would do lots and lots of car trips, and we had a few Vangelis cassettes that we'd put our favourite Vangelis stuff on. So I know obviously there was the Chariots of Fire theme, obviously, but also Blade Runner. But then he did 1492. Do you remember that one? That was amazing. And
no,
then
I haven't heard that.
Oh, that's that. I think it's like Sigourney. It's a soundtrack. It's like Sigourney Weaver. Then there's ones that I don't even know what they came from because they were like quite out of context. But yeah, absolutely like Vangelis and Michael Field and Jean-Michel Jarre. Like Oxygen was
Ah,
almost made it on this list too, and I was like, oh,
do you know
I'm not
what?
gonna. Yeah, it's
He's
number
made it on
4.
here. Jean-Michel Jarre has made it on this podcast once before. Oh gosh,
Only once. Actually, I think I
once.
saw that, but it wasn't Oxygen, was it? It was something
No,
else.
it was. I'm frantically trying to remember which one it was. It was Rachel Lynn who picked it, and
Yeah, I
yeah, it's
remember.
gone out of my head. It is
Uh,
Equinox.
Equinox, yeah,
Yeah.
good, which is good. But like, no, Oxygen, and then part 2, and then honestly, I'm an absolute sucker for Tubular Bells, and I'm
Oh
kind of
yeah, right on.
non-apologetic about it. I just like even now when it's like two slightly distorted guitars, I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh,
There
that's
was a little
great.
while about 15 years ago, I just like had it in my car, a CD player, nonstop. And I would just, people would come in and they'd be like, can you turn it down? I'm like, I don't know if I can. Oh, I really like this bit. Bit from The
Tu-
Exorcist.
Oh my! In your car, Tubular Bells. That is
Oh yeah.
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 Wow.
I had
Also, I'm like,
yeah.
so there was someone who told me, I remember before I could drive, I wanted to put something on in their car, and they were like, if I'm driving, I'm picking the music. And then
Yes.
when I passed my test, I was like, okay, time to take the wheel in every sense. So
In every sense.
I get very indignant about, I've got, I'm the one driving it. I'm going to put my music
I
on.
know, I know. But now that I have kids, that's just gone right out the window.
What do they,
Absolutely.
what do they ask for?
Oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. We actually, this is one of the less horrendous things, but they went through they're kind of going through like a bit of a weird Al Yankovic. So we got them onto that because they were
Wow.
like listening to really disgusting fart songs. You wouldn't believe how many
Oh,
fart songs there are out
oh,
there.
you're
Like
kidding.
there's this song I'd never heard of it. It's called the Macaroni Song. I don't know how to explain it. Just look it up. Like it has nothing to do with macaroni at all. Like
Oh no.
so, and that will give you a good idea of what my kids like.
Uh, do you try and enforce a like kind of thing of, okay, you can play that song and then I'm going to put on something, to preserve my sanity that I like?
Sometimes, yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends on how long the car trip is. If it's like a really long car trip, which I'm saying, an hour for us is long, then we'll have pre-agreed on so we all like contribute some songs, put it in a playlist, shuffle, and then
Ah,
that's what we do. Yeah.
great idea. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So then everyone is both happy and unhappy at the same time, but in equal amounts.
And hopefully the average is just,
The average
mildly
is,
satisfied.
yeah. And then, there's only like 3 songs until you get your song again. So it's like, it's not that bad.
What do they think of your okay, so what do they think of your picks, and where do you tend to go with these car playlist picks?
Oh, like, so I'll just do straight up like pure kind of pop. So I'll do lots of like Prince.
Nice.
Yeah, and then what else will I do? I love the Bangles, so we'll do stuff that I know
Cool.
that they're gonna like, but I
Yeah.
still like it. Sometimes I do a bit of pulp
Oh
as well
cool,
if I want some
nice.
some bangers, and then and they'll like they'll bust out the Katy Perry. Occasionally they'll surprise me with something reasonably good. Oh, what we have a really good Halloween playlist, actually.
Oh, very important. Nice.
Yeah.
What have we got on there?
Who's that old? Oh, is it Boris Pickett? Is
Oh, I
that
don't
the
know.
guy that does the very, very, very old school, like, Monster Mash type things?
Oh,
Bobby Pickett, yeah. And so all of those, like, and Time Warp. So I know I love that, like, really schlocky kind of 60s horror film stuff. So I managed to sneak quite a lot of that onto there. So it's really camp at our place
that's
around Halloween.
great. That's really cool. But that's a good one because I guess for the kids, it has the ghoulish kind of, it really leans
Yes.
into the season, so I guess it's an easy
Exactly.
sell.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
very
I feel
good.
like they don't do really awesome Halloween songs anymore.
That's very true. I think do you think it's kind of like, it's because it's a traditional holiday now, there have been some solidified classics and it's very hard to like canonize a new Halloween song? Just doesn't have that.
Maybe, but you know what? Mariah Carey did it with Christmas.
She
I
did.
feel like someone has not put the resources into it. Like what we need is like a thriller type thing where it's not, don't give us a song, give us a whole like mini film.
Well,
That's what we need.
that is surprising because there are plenty of like Halloween films, especially like family oriented Halloween films, but not like a big song like leading. No, I'd not considered this at all, but this is a really good point.
I weirdly do consider it quite a bit.
Well, that maybe you need to take up the.
Maybe I should take up the maybe I should, because I know at the end of like Hotel Transylvania, which is a Halloween one that we watch, and then like I can't remember his name, but the kid, and he DJs and he busts out the Macarena, which is hilarious. But then all of a sudden, so now the Macarena has become one of our like Halloween songs. But I'm like, that's just a repurposing. I think that someone needs to make a kind of a bit of a schlocky, like low budget Halloween film and an absolute killer track.
Yeah,
and then it's ripe for the taking.
Yeah,
like I feel like Christmas is hard and lots of people are busting out their Christmas albums. No one's busting out an amazing Halloween album.
No, it's an open goal. And also, I'm surprised something hasn't arisen from Hotel Transylvania, because I feel like Adam Sandler could,
he could
give
really
it a bit of celebrity.
cash in.
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe he's just not hungry enough for it. He's like so rich and famous anyway.
Yeah, that's it. He hasn't got.
You need to want it.
This is what maybe I feel like you do want it. I do feel like you should. You should lead the charge on this. Can't wait to look back on this conversation once you've capitalized on.
Got my Halloween hit.
Yeah. God. This is exciting. So to very briefly return to Virgins, it's wicked you saw Tim Hecker live. I saw him twice on the Virgins tour, which was crazy.
No way.
And he played once in a church, and this is, I think, linking in with the thing you were saying about how he could play at volume but not to the point where you felt like you needed to protect your hearing and leave. Like it's very subdued in the church, and you felt like he was very much allowing the acoustics to sort of strike up a dialogue with what he was doing. And then I saw him in a club space where people were just talking, and he kind of like compacted his sound into like something very hard and kind of loud and compressed, or not compressed, but just it cut through, in a way that it just didn't in a church. I thought that malleability was pretty amazing. Yeah, it was.
That's amazing. So people could talk through his show.
Oh, yeah, it was like it's like a very kind of socially centric space in London, which I think there's a lot of club nights. So I think there's something about the space and maybe the people who frequent it where they don't generally expect to sort of just face forward and not talk for the duration. But it felt like Tim was responsive to that, and just basically like just let off at high volume and kind of flattened the conversation, which was it's really cool to see like the material in two different modes like that, because it's definitely got that potential.
That is really cool. Yeah, this was kind of like a performance space. It was at this place we have in Brisbane called the Powerhouse, and it was part of this like festival that Lawrence co-curates. And it was really good because I think people were really there to see Tim Hecker. But it was like a club space. It was like more like a art performance space, but it had like an absolute killer sound system, and I guess that's what made it so good, because I mean, you can listen to the stuff on a great sound system at home, but when you're kind of in that space and then you see him and you've got the visual of seeing him, especially because it was really hard to see him as well, which actually made it more exciting. But just having that just the feeling the vibration through your body makes it, and the space kind of really lent itself to that.
Love it.
But yeah, I do love seeing musicians perform in unexpected places as well, and how it can really like just change the way they would otherwise perform.
Oh gosh, yeah. I've had quite a few like that. Have you got any that come to mind when you say that?
Just trying to think. I remember seeing, and I actually barely remember what the space was, but I was traveling with a friend and we wanted to see some live music. So we asked the hostel we were staying if there was live music, and they were like, "Oh, there's this like, this band playing there, fantastic. You should go and see them." Or there's this like weird experimental saxophonist. And we're like, oh, well, we should see the weird like experimental saxophonist. And it was fucking Colin Stetson. And I was
Wow.
like, oh my God. But the place was like, I can't even remember. It was small. It was small and it was
Wow.
like weird, and there was beer everywhere, and it was like there wasn't even really a stage. So I feel like he was sort of in the middle of a room and everyone was just like standing around it. I mean, it was still, there were lots of people there and it was crowded. But I remember, and I absolutely knew who Colin Stetson was. I was not expecting to see him that night.
Wow.
And I was just like, it's completely wild.
That is incredible. How long ago was this?
This would have been in about 2013.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, it's about 11 years ago.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I love those gigs though where you were like, not really planned to be doing this.
No.
It's great because some of those are my favorite gigs. You're like, you don't have time to prepare. You just get completely ambushed by something amazing.
Exactly. And to think we could have missed it. I mean,
Right.
I mean, there's hundreds of gigs I have definitely missed. But you just go, oh, that was one that I'm like, oh, that was a real transformative one. Like that was, yeah.
Love it.
Crazy.
The weird saxophonist guy.
Weird.
How just dismissive. That's so good.
No, yeah. And
I feel I should mention it.
They were like partially offended that we didn't go with their suggestion. And I was like, I was wildly offended that they didn't tell us it was Colin Stetson.
Oh my God.
If you found out the next day, that was like...
Oh, you'd be livid, yeah.
I mean, I'd be livid.
Yeah.
My God, I'd have
I'm with you.
Have an adult meltdown.
Oh my God, that's so good. Madeleine, I have one more question for you, and I feel like we've kind of answered this in various fragments throughout the conversation, but I like to ask about how music kind of features as a listener in your day-to-day life, the kind of formats you tend to prefer and where you like to go to buy music. So yeah, if you could let me into a bit of that would be great.
This is such a good topic. I definitely don't listen to music all the time. I listen to it only when I really want to listen to it, and I try and make it really intentional. And I also find that I can't listen to music and be doing something else. I'm like a massive monotasker.
Wow.
And so I'm not someone that's ever been able to study with music in the background. So if I wanted to listen to music, I will generally still want to grab my headphones, and I just like to really, if I have time with something, just really sit there with it. My perfect listening scenario is lying on bed in the dark with headphones on and just like, I don't know, letting it kind of wave over you, which does not happen every day at all, not even close. So that is my absolute preferred way. If there's something that's really important for me that I want to listen to, I will try and carve the time out to like really intentionally listen. That's it. I mean, there's definitely other, when you're in the car and stuff, but I don't really consider that. I'm just hearing the music. I'm not really listening to the music.
Yeah.
And in terms of buying, I'm still like I really love Bandcamp. In terms of like listening, I just think that is still the best way to support other musicians is on Bandcamp. I'm increasingly disliking a lot of streaming services. Like I never really liked them, but now it's making me get like more and more cranky. But also if like a musician has a preferred way for me to listen to their music, and I guess the people that I like to listen to are generally going to be on Bandcamp, I kind of like to take my cue from them as well.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of, and I mean, I've got like some vinyl, but it's not like it's not a crazy collection or something, although I will be adding to it tomorrow with that new Dirty.
Yeah. Love it.
And that again, I like that as an experience because when you put something on, it's intentional, and you've got about 20 minutes, and then you get reminded by the silence that you have to go and like put it on again. So I like that. It's like quite interactive, but yeah, still, if I can listen to something, on my computer, like streaming on Bandcamp, or if I've purchased it from Bandcamp or something like that, that's my favorite way.
Cool. Madeleine, this has been the best. I have loved hearing about your new record. I've loved that we have spoken about your 3 picks and so much else as well, including your Halloween song campaign, which has been a really significant takeaway from this. So thank you so much.
I'll keep you posted on that one.
Great. Amazing. And for everyone listening, see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.